Ladies and gentlemen, I think Joe Biden may be not long for this world. And it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. Look, we know the guy's 80, and these photos have emerged showing strange markings on his face. The guy's 80. We know he's got health issues. He's already past the life expectancy for the average U.S. male. I think it's like 79 years old. He's 80 now, I believe, right? So these images pop up showing these marks on his face. And of course, everyone is concerned as to what this may be. The media is reporting that he is now using a CPAP machine because he suffers from sleep apnea. I believe they're lying. I believe what's more likely is that he's an old man. He's probably on oxygen. They're probably supplementing him, and they're probably using these bands as a way to obfuscate what's actually going on with his failing body. They claimed that his Gaffe's speech impediment. He doesn't have one. He's never. You listen to him talking in the 90s. He was speaking just fine. Then they say, oh, but when he was younger, he did, and now that he's getting older, it's coming back. No, he's getting older. That's just it. Sure, fine. Call it whatever you want.
It's still because of age, right? The argument they're making is, oh, he's getting older, so now it's coming back. Well, yeah, the point of making a comment about the stutter is because of his age. That's ridiculous.
But take a look at this. I mean, he's got these markings on both sides of his face. And, you know, look, how long do those markings stay pressed into his face? Did he wake up literally right before he went out for his flight, took off the mask and had the marks on his face? The dude is unwell. So in speaking about whether or not he can run in 2024, I don't think there's a question. He can't.
Yeah.
No, he really can't.
Well, and I think your strongest case for the oxygen argument is that it almost looks like any moment he's not in front of people, he has to have something strapped to his face. He's got
IV marks on his hands at one point.
Yes, exactly.
And I'll stress this. They mentioned that, let me pull up the caption. His sleep apnea has been public knowledge since 2008. And he wasn't using a CPAP machine? Only now he is? I don't buy it.
No, also people who have sleep apnea wear it while they're sleeping, from what I understand, not while they're just sitting at their desk in their office.
Yes.
Well, this is a picture from him in the morning about to get on some plane. But the question is, did he just wake up? He's wearing a suit. How long did it take him to put that suit on? And how long would those markings stay on your face? I can't imagine they'd stay on his face that long.
His suit actually goes on like the Iron Man suit. You just stand him up and the stuff just gets thrown on him.
No, I mean, part of what's happening with Biden, I have always found it annoying that the mainstream media treats it like it's super normal that he spends basically all of his weekends at one of his 2 private residences, and that the White House made this big shot of being like, we're so transparent, here are the White House visitor logs, but we don't know who goes to his house in Delaware. You can make an argument, privacy, should he be allowed to, whatever, but it seemed clear to me, and again, this is my personal speculation, that he is receiving some kind of medical treatment when he goes home to Delaware on the weekends, because he was always, I mean, even if he wasn't full on sick, he's always been getting older. I mean, he was the oldest person elected president, and this has only continued to be true as he has aged. It seems like maybe things are getting worse. It's hard to tell, but it feels to me like we're getting more and more gaps. Now we're seeing these markings. It's only a matter of time. I
mean, it's a good bet.
It's a good bet. And for me, I kept saying, when is he going to announce that he's running for re-election, because his press secretary seemed to be hesitant even when he was saying, yes, I will run.
Yep.
And I think that should tell you that the people around him don't think he should continue forward, even if he himself feels like there's no problem. And maybe he's not in a position to make that call.
No, I don't think he is.
Here was the other story from around the same time. They say President 80 says Putin is clearly losing the war in Iraq while clutching notes on Wagner uprising and yet another blunder. Yet another blunder. And look, in this story, you can see the marks on his face. Cheat sheet. This dude can't handle it, man. He never could handle it.
No, and at this point, too, it's really frustrating because I remember when they used to say Trump goes to Mar-a-Lago too much, or golfs too much, I should say, and they criticized DeSantis for being on potentially Ozempic, and RFK Jr. is on testosterone, and so all the things that we should all be talking about with Biden, he gets a free pass. He gets a free pass to potentially be using drugs that keep him awake at day. He gets a free pass to not medically disclose to us what he's actually doing that's keeping him alive and somewhat sentient. He doesn't get criticized for going to Delaware every seeming weekend. He vacations more than any president we've had in the last 40 years. And he gets a free pass for all of it. So it's really frustrating because it just feels like we're all ignoring this massive elephant in the room. We're not, obviously, but a lot of the country is. And my greatest fear that would cause me to really be disappointed in our country in its current state would be that if he actually does run again and were to somehow get reelected, I think it would be a massive indictment of our country.
My biggest problem with what you're with, I'm in agreement with you, but my biggest problem is the fact that the American people, I think, are generally aware of Biden's problems. At least people that actually are politically aware, that pay attention and to enough to vote and stuff, and they accept the obvious fact that it is not the president that's making the calls. That means it is someone else, or it is a group of people. It's probably, his advisors that get together and make a decision and tell him, well, Mr. President, we're going to do this because blah, blah, blah. And the fact that the American people are comfortable with that, to me, is a problem.
Yeah. We've gotten so comfortable with the bureaucratic state that we just don't even expect the president to lead anymore.
And one of the biggest problems is that you don't ever have anyone that's accountable when the situation's like this. If there's multiple bureaucrats that are making decisions, at the end of the day, really the ones making the decisions, they will never, ever pay for any bad decisions. They will stay in office. A lot of the people that are still in the Biden administration are people that were in the administration of George Bush when we went into Iraq. A lot of the same players are still in Washington, D.C. in the quote unquote deep state. So you're not going to get any kind of significant change until you address that problem.
Yeah, well, I think it's another sign of that is that there used to be a day in geopolitical environments when, like, if you had a president that had a gaffe like this about major geopolitical actors, like, the world would stand on notice because, oh my gosh, the president of the free world just said something about another political leader related to war. Like, everybody used to really pay attention and care. Yeah. And now it's like even the other foreign leaders are like, oh, it's another Tuesday with a gaffe. And he could call for war and no one would even really take him seriously.
We brought this up when he was talking about Syria, but kept saying Libya.
Yeah, exactly.
And he kept saying Libya over and over again. And the media, of course, downplays it, saying, oh, it's no big deal. It is a big deal if he goes to his generals and says, I want to see some territorial gains in Libya. And they go, you got it. Next thing you know, it's like, why is there a no-fly zone in Libya? It's like, well, Biden made a mistake.
Yep.
So what are the generals supposed to do? Defy his orders? This is the conundrum. Yes, we know he's not well in the mind, and he said the wrong word. I think the average person can assume he did not mean Libya. What if he did?
Yeah.
Are the generals going to be like, sir, are you sure? And they say, yeah, of course, come on, man. I'm talking about, like, okay. Or do they just say, no, he's incapacitated, so we're going to defy his orders and ignore him?
Mm-hmm. Well, that goes back to your point. Is like, I don't even know who's in charge of the generals at this point.
Yeah.
How do they make decisions? You really think they ask him for military strategy?
Who knows?
Like, no way.
I think it was Andy Card, I think, is his chief of staff or something like that. I'm not sure the chief of staff, but that it may be just a name that I'm remembering. But I'm sure that it's not Joe Biden.
Yeah.
It's a council, or I'm not one of the guys that thinks that, Barack Obama's running stuff from behind the scenes. There are people that make those kind of remarks. I don't think that's the situation. I think it's just people that are high up in the administration that are the bureaucratic,
I think it's Joe Biden, and I think Afghanistan is proof.
You think it's him? You think he's making...
Look at Afghanistan. Any sane person who sat down... You could take your average, middle-aged, overweight American dad, sit him down in the Situation Room and say, here's Afghanistan. We want to get out. And that person would do a better job.
That's true. That's a good point.
So I wonder if, like, the abandoning Bagram Air Force Base, not notifying the Afghan security forces... Everything they did, every error, it was insane how bad it was. It was pure chaos. So it could be that there is no leadership at all. So people were doing random things. But considering that the U.S. abandoned the Bagram Air Force Base, I kind of feel like that was a leadership call from someone who is not right in the head, Joe Biden. And we got to get our troops out of there, man. Not September. We're gonna get out of there. Like, okay, well, where should we draw? Get them out of the air. Just get them out. Get them out. Air Force Base. Get them out.
But he wanted to withdraw them by the anniversary of September 11th, right? He made it in an emotional place instead of following a tactical argument, from what I understand.
I would be shocked if he was that hands-on with how the withdrawal was done.
How do you explain it?
I don't have a better explanation, but I would be very surprised if President Joe Biden was that hands-on about how to carry out the withdrawal, because I too agree that it was ridiculous to have the combat troops come out before the civilians. Absolutely.
And abandoning the Air Force base where you could
leaving all of our gear.
But where you could get them out.
Yeah,
fly them out of the Air Force base.
I am as flabbergasted as you guys are that was the actual process that actually happened. I just would be really surprised if Joe Biden was that granular about commanding.
But that's the point. He wasn't. He's like, hey, we're going to get our troops out of there. And it's like, well, look, Mr. President, we've got an Air Force base. We can't just get them out of the Air Force base then. Are you sure? Yeah. Like, oh, whatever you say, sir.
And I always wonder if the generals that receive those orders are also as incompetent or nefarious.
Oh, come on. Look at Milley.
Exactly. That's where it's like, I wonder if it's literally just a comedy of errors across the entire leadership of the U.S. government. Our intelligence sucks. If you were naive enough to believe that Afghani officials and forces there could hold that region and then it fell in a matter of days, like, how do you get things that wrong across an entire organization as large and profound as the U.S. military? It's a comedy of errors. And I always struggle with how much do you attribute to malicious intent versus incompetence. That is always a tough thing for me. But
sometimes it's both.
Yeah, I think in this case it was, and I think in most things happening in our government right now, there's a small faction of people that are genuinely evil, and then the rest of the people in the nut house are just pure incompetence at the highest degree. It's the Pete Buttigieg that have no ability or resume to lead transportation, mayor of a nothing town in Indiana. Don't get me wrong, South Bend's fine, but like, what? Do you even have public transportation? And you're leading this. Like, our whole government in the bureaucratic state at this point is this massive hodgepodge collaboration between malicious intent, evil actors, and incompetence at the highest level. And ultimately, I think that's why, like, anybody that's even remotely normal and is able to present any sort of sense of leadership is rising to the top of the cultural conversation.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.